Hi friends, it's Diana here today, and as the totally last minute person that I am, I'm super excited today to be starting on my Halloween inspired costume. So I say Halloween inspired. It's not really Halloween inspired. It's a Halloween costume that is going to be made to wear outside of just Halloween. So as I was sitting here thinking, what do I want to wear for Halloween? I also thought, I don't want to just make a costume, just something that I will only wear one time a year. And I thought, why not make something that would be something I could wear as Halloween inspired by a costume, but that I can wear as separate pieces for something else. So that is what I'm doing today. I actually really love the movie ENCANTO, and I love all the characters in that movie, but my favorite would have to be Mirabel. There's just something about her that I just love. Her fun, outgoing attitude, her always looking at the positive side of things, and it's just fun. And I also love her outfit. So I thought today that is what I'm going to be making. So I've got an idea for a top. It's just going to be a simple white top with the gathering at the front, an off-shoulder top, and I am going to be adding some embroidery to it, but not using an embroidery machine. I'm just using my sewing machine and just adding some pretty stitches. And then for the skirt, I am going to be using a self-drafted tiered skirt is what I'm going to be doing. So it's going to be super simple. I want to make a little belt that has the Mirabel on it, so that way I can detach it, put it back on whenever I want to, and then all the little other things like flowers and stuff like that I was thinking of just pinning on so that I can remove them, because later the skirt I can wear with a regular top, the top I can wear with jeans or a skirt or whatever, and it'll be something that I can wear at other times. Now today we're only going to do part one of this sew along. We're going to be starting with the shirt, and we're going to go ahead and work on that and then come back later as we finish up our skirt. Alright friends, we're going to get started with our top, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to first measure around the upper bust and see how wide I want the shirt to be. Now the flounce, it's gonna go over my shoulders, but the top is just gonna be like a tube top basically here at the bottom, and it's gonna attach up here at the top to my actual flounce once I put them together, and I'll show you that. So I'm gonna measure here to see how wide I want the top to be at the top. Now remember, this is a woven pattern, so the fabric doesn't stretch, so I'm going to add a little bit of room. So I want it to be something that's going to be able to go over my body as I try to take it on and off, and you can see it doesn't do that if I don't give it enough allowance. So you have to make sure that you have enough allowance that you can take it on and off when you want to wear it, right? Now don't worry about having a little bit of allowance on here. You're gonna be like, oh, this is gonna fall off. No, because we're gonna add the elastic, and the elastic will cinch it in. So when you're measuring yourself to make this, make sure that you're giving yourself enough room to get in and out of it comfortably. Maybe more room than that. So once you have that measurement around the upper bust, next you are going to add, I'm gonna mark right here kind of at the shoulder area, because I want to go up just a little bit. So I wanted the shirt to fit right here, right below my armpits, but I don't want it to hang right there, and I don't want to just make it like that and then when I put the flounce on be like coming up and like tight on my armpits and stuff like that. So I want to have a little bit of space here so that I can attach it to the flounce a little bit higher up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where my sides are, and I'm going to shave up a little bit and add an extra allowance here to add the elastic and hem it at the top. So once we make the front, I'm gonna make the back exactly the same. So what you can do is you can measure from side to side and then add the little piece here at the top. You just want to make sure that there's enough allowance to let it go in and out over your head, or you're gonna have to do a clasp in the back where you can open it or close it so that it comes off easily. You don't want it to be too tight and then you can't take it off or put it on, so you did all this for nothing. The next measurement will be measure from your arm side area, your armpit area, all the way down to where you want this top to land, and that's how long you want to make it. And then you're going to add the 1/2 inch seam allowance that you want to add to the bottom of the bodice. So Oh, I keep eating my hair. I'm going to go ahead and take all those measurements and then show you how I'm going to cut it. All right, so my upper bust, how big I want it to be with that a little bit of extra is 41 inches, and the length I want is 15.5. That's probably a little bit longer than I need, but I just want it to be for sure. So then I'm gonna cut that in half because I'm gonna make a front bodice and a back bodice. So here it is. This is what it is. This is what that is. It's a rectangle, right? That I'm going to go ahead and make, and I'm going to make 2 of this, right? But what I want to do, like I was talking about, is I want to make sure that I have room under my armpits and on the seam allowance here at the top where this is a little bit higher and it's not going to choke me at the armpits right here. So I'm going to go up 1.25 inches here at the middle. So it ends up being, that's like a bag. But then what I'm going to do is, it'll be like this, and I'm gonna shape these sides out to be like more rounded, so it kind of has more of the shape of the armpit area here. Now some of it, 1/4 inch, will be folded down, and then another probably 1/2 inch will be folded down again, and that will become my elastic casing here. So it will be pretty much almost even to my armpit areas once it's all done, but I'll show that to you once I cut it out. But I hope that makes sense. Now you could go ahead and make a pattern for this, and maybe I'll go ahead and make a pattern because that might make it easier to cut my fabric. So I've got this gift wrapping paper from last year that I had left over, and it's perfect for making pattern pieces. So I'm going 20.5, that's what I said, 20.5 by 15. Now I probably should have left more room here at the top where I was going to add that length, but I didn't. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to mock it up and tell you what I was going to do. I'm going to go up about, so this is a 2-inch ruler. I'm going to go up about 2 inches. It's higher, and then this is going to be a 2.25 inches. So the 1/4 is going to get folded down, and then I'm going to fold down again to create the casing. But I also want it to be a little bit higher than my armpit area by about 2 inches. So I want to go more like 4 inches up. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it and then add another piece at the top because I didn't leave enough room at the top anyway. From my side, I'm going to go in about 3 inches and mark it on each side. The reason being is because this is where my arms are right here. This will be like my neck area up here. So I don't want it to start like right where this is gonna sit under my armpit area. This is my side. This is like my side of my body. And here is where my armpit would be, right here. And then here's where it starts, my neck starts coming out. So I don't want it to start right at my side. So that's why I wanted to mark the 3 inches so I know exactly where to start this. And I think this is, it's a little bit wider than 3 inches, but it's okay. We can cut it down. All right. Well, let me put it behind it so I can really see the 3-inch mark. And I'm gonna tape it just so it's just like an addition if I would have cut it longer. I tend to make things harder on myself than they need to be. All right, so what we're going to go up is I want that 2 inches, 2.25 inches for my casing and everything like that. But I also wanted about 2 to 3 inches, I'm thinking 2 inches higher than where my armpit area is. So I'm gonna go actually 4.25 inches. Now, this is what I'm doing. I went 4.25. But, you know, you can look and see what mine looks like and then say, well, I don't want it that high, or I want it higher, or whatever. And then you can, you know, make up your own. So there's my 2.25, and here's my 3 inches. So now remember what I said, I don't want it to be so sharp like that. So you can use like something rounded. You can use, this would work, or you can use a rounded ruler, curved ruler, and create that area. So we start here at the 3 inches. We're kind of just going over to the armpit area. Now obviously there's a little piece missing there because it wasn't wide enough, but I can add that when I cut it. To make it even more even, so you don't have to worry about if that side and this side is even, you can, because this is your pattern piece now, you're gonna cut 2 of this, a front and a back, but you can fold it in half and just cut a front and a back on the fold. So that way you can make sure that that is even. So the side is even. So you can just cut all around the one side, and this will be your fold on this side. So this will be my pattern piece for my bodice. So let's go ahead and cut that with my white fabric. I'm using a very light fabric. And this could be like my trial and error fabric and see how it goes. It was just a very cheap white fabric. And yeah. Now again, let me tell you again that if you just want to have an already made pattern, if you're worried about making your own copy of this pattern, you can go ahead and get that. I just wanted you to have an option to do it yourself if you wanted to. I just always kind of like to do things myself and see how they turn out. And you can definitely do an old sheet, use an old sheet to create this right here at the top and see how it turns out, and then go from there. That will work just fine. So I'm cutting 2 of these, a front and a back. All right, now that we've got our bodice area cut out, it's time for our flounce. I'm going to do a measurement around my shoulders and see how wide my shoulders are. And it lands at a 42 at the width of my shoulders. And I'm going to actually 1.5 that. I want it to be a gather ruffle. I think 1.5 will be enough. And then I'm going to see how tall I want this to be. So about 6 inches, because I wanted to lay down low, but I'm also going to do like a scallop thing I'm going to show you. So I'm going to just cut it like about 9 inches because I want to do the scallop before I trim it, and then I'll trim it down. So I'm thinking, I said, what did I say? 7? Did I say 6 inches? I think I said 6 inches is how long I wanted to hit. Let's say 7 inches just for kicks and giggles. And then we're gonna have to add the extra inchage at the top for folding that hem allowance and creating the casing like we did for the top. And then at the bottom, I'm gonna add a little bit extra because I'm gonna show you what technique I'm going to do for the bottom of the flounce. So let me write those numbers down and cut the fabric. Okay, so my shoulders, I don't remember what I measured last time, but I measured again and it was 42. I think. And then I'm going to 1.5. You can 1.5 to 2. I kind of was thinking 2, but I'm just going to do 1.5 for now. And if you see that it's a little too tight, you can always add a little bit extra. So 1.5 on this is 63. And then I'm going to do 10 inches is the length I want to do because I want to do the scallop. I'm show you that. And then I'm going to do add an extra 2 inches for the top and a hem allowance. So hopefully that will work. So now I'm going to cut my fabric at this measurements, and then we're going to show you what I'm going to do for the next step. Since I'm cutting it in 2, I'm going to add an inch for seam allowance. So I'm going to cut at 64, so it's 32. Here's the sides. And because I cut this one front and one back, they're ready. So what I'm gonna do before I move on is I wanna have a couple of inches here at the top that are gonna be wasted basically. Then the length of my flounce is gonna be about 7 inches, I said. So let's mark that right there, 7 to 8 inches. This is a water soluble marker, by the way, so it will come off after I'm done doing the things that I want to do. Now I marked that because what I want to do is I want to do this little like flouncy detail. I'm going to mark another 2 inches. By flouncy I meant scalloped detail. So now I've got that 2-inch line right there, and I'm gonna grab whatever I have to make the scalloped shape. Well, here's our lid for my mason jar, and we're gonna do the scallop, and I'm just gonna continue to do it all the way around. Little I need something wider. I don't want it to be so thin like that. I want bigger scallops. So let me try this ribbon. It is water soluble, so it'll come off, so don't worry. If you're looking at it and you're like, oh, you're making a mess on that, I am. And I actually should be staying on that line right there, but I didn't. It's okay, just keep them even. All right, so here's my scallop hem right there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it around and trace it on this side as well. I want them to be exactly the same. So I'm just tracing like the bottom of the scallop where they meet right here. Because I'm gonna do this technique to both sides. Ooh, this one's a little uneven. So there's this is gonna be the bottom of my blouse right there. So I was playing around trying to figure out what stitch to use, and I found that doing a zigzag stitch along the edge and then doing a decorative stitch on top of it works really well. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's why I did not want to cut this fabric off, because I wanted to do that stitch first before I cut that edge off, or it would be really, really hard to do. And you can even leave it a little bit longer. I meant to leave it a little bit longer, but then I went, see that, like a whole inch under anyway. I'm gonna turn it to my zigzag stitch, and I'm gonna make it thinner. So I'm going like, the width is gonna be like a 0.6, and I mean the length is gonna be like a 0.6, and the width, I'm gonna make it like a 4.5, and then I'm just gonna get going. When I get to the corner of the scallop, I'm gonna lift and go around. Now, as you can see, this is what it's looking like at the bottom. Now, you can do it a little bit closer together if you want, so it's very tight. Let me move it to a 0.5. You can use a different kind of stitch that's tighter than that, or you can even go over it twice. So I'm gonna go over it once, and then you can go over it again if you wanted to after that. When you get to the top, make the needle go to the other side, so that way when you turn, it will overlap, and I'll show you the difference on that. Now I'm going to tell you two things. For a better threading, you could put a little bit of interfacing here at the edge so it catches better, and you also could use embroidery thread for a better thread, but this is just I'm just playing with this, kind of learning the technique, so that's why I just went with it. See how here it crosses over because I left the needle on the other side and then started over? On here, I left the needle on the opposite side, so it kind of bunched it up and it didn't cross over, so I think the crossover looks better. All right, so now next I would do the other one, but I'm going to go ahead and move on to, let me make sure I check my bobbin. My bobbin is still okay. I'm going to change my stitch, and so like I said last time, I did this stitching right here, that beautiful stitching, and that's just a decorative stitch that my sewing machine has. But I was thinking there's another one that I was kind of thinking about using. I'm gonna try it out real quick. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will see that I actually did a poll on this on Instagram to figure out which one I should use, if I should use this square one or if I should use this floral, this like butterfly like one. And most people voted for this stitch right here. So if you want to be part of that conversation on how my garments turn out, make sure you find me on Instagram at Eloise.Ezra. So I'm going to go ahead and instead of doing this little boxy, I'm going to do the little butterfly flower thing on top of it. Yo, this is new to me. If you've been doing embroidery for a long time, you're probably laughing at my technique right now. But hey, beginner. Look at how cute that is looking, adorable. I'm gonna continue to do that to all the scallops and do the scallops and this to the other side, so that you don't have to sit there and watch me just needle. And then I'm gonna come back and we're going to finish this top up. It's going to be super easy to finish up. If you don't wanna do all these details, you know, you basically are really close to being done because it's gonna be super easy now once this is done. All right, I am done with that part, and look at how adorable that looks. that trim, that edging. It is so beautiful. I am super excited about it. I know, if I would have used some interfacing behind it, then I know that that helps it keep its shape and everything like that, but I think once I give it some steaming, it'll be good. Plus, I do not like using interfacing. I don't know why. I just don't like it, but look, it looks great. I love it. It took me about, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes per panel to create this. Now you can buy fabric that already has a border, but you know, why buy it when you can make it for twice the cost at twice the time of, like 3 times the time of, sorry, that it takes to sew it. I'm just kidding. It didn't cost anything because I made this with this fabric. It's like cheap fabric I had, and like I said, you could repurpose a sheet or something like that to do it, or you can buy really nice fabric if you want it a different look. Anyway, so now what I'm going to do is to actually go ahead and sew it right sides together, which, yeah, that's the right side. Here at the 2 edges, like I said I was going to, and I didn't yet because I figured I'd go ahead and do the scallops and try to match the scallops. As you can see, it's a little bit longer here, so I'm going to match that. It doesn't matter at the top because I know I left enough room here at the top to have enough that I need, enough of what I need at the top, and then do the same on the other side. Oh, this one is bad because I ended at the bottom. Oh well, that's okay. That's gonna go under my armpit. You won't be able to see it. Match up the other edges. So when you're sewing this, if you're doing the scallop method, make sure you keep that in mind. I guess I could trim it up. You know what? I could do that. I could trim it up so that it does end right there. Duh. Y'all are like, hello. Sometimes the fix, like the easiest fix is in front of your face and you don't realize it. I'm gonna sew those sides and then I'm gonna trim underneath. I have to trim like right up to the thread, but not cutting the thread, okay? So you want to have like you could have like a little gap here underneath the thread, because if you clip the thread, it's gonna fall apart. So make sure you're clipping right underneath the thread, but not actually the thread. So I'm gonna go sew the sides, clip that off. Also, while I'm at it, I'm gonna grab my bodice and I'm going to also sew the sides, right sides together. I'm gonna use a zigzag stretch stitch on this to finish the raw edges. You can use your serger too if you wanted to do that instead. There is the zigzag stitch, so that way I can cut up to the zigzag stitch and my fabric won't fray. Alright, so now we need to focus on the bodice. The first thing we need to do is, well, the hemming can come last, but the top will be hemmed, but we also need to hem these arm sides. We can't just leave them raw unless you did a black, you could do a black serger seam or zigzag stitch here to kind of match the black on the top. That's a good idea. Or you can just fold it. You'll have to fold it like twice because this is woven. So you need to make sure that you have one fold to take that, because it'll fray, and then the other fold down. But I think I like that idea of doing the black. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. That way I have, I don't know, I'm so indecisive. I already have white thread in my machine, so I'm just gonna hem it like regular. This is how I make my decisions, based on what is easier. Or you can definitely use some binding here too. Get some bias binding and bind those sides. Again, that's an extra step that I'm just like, you know what? Let's go the easy route. All right, so now we're gonna create those casings.
So for my top, the top of my top, we're gonna go down with the hem and then down again, but I wanna create them together. So the first thing I wanna make sure is how long I want this ruffle to be, because remember I made it a little extra long. I'm gonna take off just a little bit off the top. While I already have it folded, I'm gonna mark my front and back. I'm just gonna clip a little, just a little pin. And I'm gonna mark the front and back of my top as well. Now I'm going to make this, grab my flounce, and I'm gonna feed it on top of my top. And you'll see here, I'm gonna match up those points and I'm going to sew them together, the front to the flounce, like so. So I'm gonna fold that 1/4 inch first, probably hard to see with the white fabric, but right here, I'm matching it up. There's my bodice. The right side of my bodice is touching the wrong side of the flounce. And I'm gonna go that 1/4 inch. And this is gonna go all the way around the whole top of the flounce. That 1/4 or 1/2 inch, how much ever seam allowance you created there. And then I'm gonna fold it that inch over, which is gonna create that casing. However big you want to make that casing, depending on what size elastic you're gonna fit in there. And we're gonna continue to do that to the flounce. Even though it will not grab right here where the arm side is, it will catch up on the other side again. So we can do the other side, the same thing, the 1/2 point, match it up, and then meet up the sides. So my 1/2 or 1/4 inch, whatever seam allowance you left there. All right, so then now I can do these sides. This is where this is like my sleeve area. I don't know if this elastic casing is going to be a little bit too wide. Like I'm going to have a really thick elastic there, but that's going to look weird. So if it does look weird on me, you can always make that casing a little bit smaller and just add an elastic that's a little bit skinnier. So I'm doing like an inch, and I'm going to put a 3/4 inch elastic inside of there. And I don't know, maybe that might look weird. I'm just kind of winging it at this point. Now we're gonna go ahead and sew it all the way around, leaving a gap where we're gonna insert our elastic, and I'm also going to hem the bottom. Yo, I haven't even tried any of this on, so this could be a complete and utter failure, and you may be laughing at me at the end, but we'll learn a lesson and we'll figure it out as we go. So now I'm grabbing some elastic that's about 2 to 3 inches tighter than my shoulders, like measure around my shoulders, and I went a couple inches in, and then we're just gonna feed it through that casing. Once you pull it all the way through, you're going to make sure that the elastics are straight and zigzag stitch them together, and then close up that gap that you left, and you'll be done. Alright friends, we are finished with this self-drafted top. I think it turned out really super cute. The longer flounce allows it to sit right on top of my shoulders, which I really like, but you can also pull it down off your shoulders and it still looks really cute. I will say a couple of things. I would probably make the flounce a tiny bit shorter so it hits a little bit higher up. I think that would be really cute too. And also I would probably make the flounce 2 times the width instead of just 1.5, so it kind of gathers a little bit more. But other than that, I think it turned out really good. The self-drafted, I think the armpit area turned out great. It's not rubbing against my skin. It fits very, very well. So I'm super excited about that. I was worried about that. But I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Stick around because next time we're going to be sewing up the self-drafted skirt, and then we'll put the whole outfit together to create that Mirabel costume. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please comment, like, share, subscribe if you haven't, and come find me on Instagram where I have a ton of behind the scenes sewing and tutorials and stuff like that. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!